Hello?
A human!
What is this place?
Just a normal hotel, nothing going on here.
What's happening? I'm sorry, my mistake. What is wrong with you people?
Hotel Transylvania. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Maximiliano Montesinos? Oh my good heavens, this cannot be happening.
Nina? What's the matter?
I'm afraid that the young man my goddaughter claims to be in love with is the son of Mauro Montesinos, Florencia's great love.
Many years ago, my father worked on this ranch, and I haven't been here in a very long time, so I was wondering if I could walk around. Would you let us do that, please?
Mpenzi mtazamaji, Christmas imekuja mapema na quick bid. Lucky bidda ako hapa, tumpe ndivi yake.
Ndio huyu anaitwa Penua. Heshimiwa na tumemheshimu.
Karibu.
Nduti ndio hii kifungu. Shika kifungu yako bosi. Ulibidaje?
Niliingia kwa site ya quickbid.co.ke. Alafu nikafuata the process.
Oh yes.
Nikabid 158 na ndio nikaweza kubai nayo hii pikipiki.
Christmas hii hakuna kutembea. Ndio huyu mheshimiwa. Kate, tufanye aje? Kalia Nduti, ndio hii ni ya customer. Hiyo ni yako. Sawa. Kalia Nduti, chukua helmet nini yako? Valia, leta nikushikie hii. Valia. Bas, Quickbit wanahakikisha pia safety. Iko on point. Haya, Kalia Nduti. Kate, si twende tushughulikie wengine. Si ndio? Twende tushughulikie wengine. Asanteni sana.
Jiunga na Quickbid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
A very good afternoon to you. 28 days into the last month of the year 2020, just 3 days before we wrap up this particular year that has been hard for so many people that have had to deal with the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. But regardless of the challenges that have come with the year 2020, I trust that your holiday is festive. Now, let's take some time to inform you on what has been happening in your country and beyond borders. My name is Serfine Achieng Ouma, and our sign language interpreter is Simon Karotha. We begin straight away with some crime watch. A family in California village in Lodwar, Turkana County, is mourning after their kin was allegedly murdered on the eve of Christmas Day. According to the deceased mother, her 17-year-old son had gone to visit friends only for his body to be found at California Market in Lodwar town. They are now calling on security apparatus to launch investigations into his death.
A somber mood has engulfed California village in Lodo, Turkana County after the body of a 17-year-old boy was retrieved on the roadside. It is not yet clear what led to his death amid fears that he was killed in a revenge attack.
Watu walikuwa na grudge au tena huyo sura mbaya alikuwa amekea vijana wawili grudge. Na kijana mmoja si yako. Sasa ni kama amekamilisha mmoja, ni kama amebakisha mmoja. Huyu jamaa huyu jamaa vile si story vile imeenda hivyo. Sasa sisi hatuna maneno mingi tena na yeye.
The mother to the deceased said her son had gone to visit his friends to celebrate Christmas but never lived to see the day. She says her son was a class 8 student at Napeli Lim Primary School and was expected to sit for his national examinations KCPE next year.
Hatujajua ni nani, lakini kupitia CCTV tutajua ni mtu wa barabara ama ni watu ambaye wanaishi hapa. Na hao wenye wanaishi hapa lazima wanajua mwenye aliua hiyo mtoto. Mbele ya Mungu na amani itakuwa. Tunaomba hata wakubwa yetu watusaidie.
The head teacher of the school has condemned the killing of the boy and called on the security organs to fast-track investigation and those found culpable in his death to be prosecuted.
We want to demand for justice. Na justice delayed is justice denied. Kwa hivyo tumekuja hapa tukitaka kama kijiji na kama nikiwa mwalimu wa mtoto na tukiwa familia, ndugu, wote ambao wamekuja hapa tukitaka justice. Kitu cha kwanza tunaomba namna hivi. Tunaomba wale, kwa sababu hapa lazima kuna security hapa. Hii milango yote lazima kuna security. Wale watchmen washikwe na weko ndani. We are demanding for that. Number 2, we are also demanding footage of that CCTV. We are demanding that footage because that one will help us to unravel what made this kijana kawawa.
Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
A really sad incident there, and we hope that justice will be served in due course. Now, moving on, a section of religious leaders from Uasin Gishu County want the government to ease the countrywide curfew directives during New Year's Eve. The group says this will allow Christian faithful to congregate in their churches and participate in prayers and New Year Eve service.
In efforts to mitigate the spread of coronavirus across the country, the government enforced a nighttime curfew to curb the spread of COVID-19. And as the countdown to ushering in 2021 nears, a section of religious leaders from Uasin Gishu County have called on the government to ease the curfew.
It's only one night, just some few hours. Watu wakutane, waombe Mungu atutangulie. Tunaomba kwa ruhusa yako, Your Excellency, the President of this Republic of Kenya, na washikadau wa viongozi wote, mwaruhusu makanisa wawe na kesha ya tarehe 31 ili tutakase inchi, ili tuombe inchi.
The group stating that 2020 has been a year with a myriad of challenges and there was need for prayers to sanctify 2021. At the same time, they argue overnight prayers will allow Christians to offer sanctification prayers to overcome the challenge of COVID-19, locust, accidents, and protection of learners ahead of reopening of schools in January.
Kenya tumepitia pahali pagumu. Na kama tumepitia mahali pagumu, tarehe 31 kabla tujafikia kilele tarehe 1 mwaka mpya 2021, ni muhimu makanisa ipatiwe nafasi ya shukuru Mungu. Nchi hii imepatikana matatizo mengi. Nchi hii inataka utakaso. Nchi hii inahitaji watumishi wa Mungu wapatiwe ruhusa hiyo.
At the same time, they called on leaders to heed the call and lead the country in participating in the prayers.
We have a lot of struggles concerning the pandemic and many other situations that we go through. We pray that we tone down on political issues, that we only do the essential aspect of providing leadership for the good of our people.
This even as they urge Kenyans to put away their differences and be champions of unity by praying together for a prosperous 2021. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Still more news related to the COVID-19 containment measures. A section of leaders from Kiambu County have has emphasized the need for all learning institutions to adhere to the COVID-19 safety protocols ahead of school reopening in January. Led by Kiambu MP Jude Njomo, the leaders want the National Assembly's Education Committee to conduct an inspection tour of all learning institutions in the country to assess their state of preparedness. Have a look. As schools prepare to reopen on January 4th, leaders are raising concern over the safety of learners. Kiambu Member of Parliament Jude Njomo says some learning institutions are ill-prepared to ensure the safety of learners.
We know that the government have set aside some funds which are supposed to go into these kind of activities. We have not received the funds as yet in our primary schools. But we did this, we talked to our friends because we want to be ready. We don't want our children to come to school, then we don't have washing stations, we are not ready for them. We want to get prepared.
So I think it is a joint effort from the leaders to the parents. The parents should try and facilitate the students to get more masks. The schools should try and make sure that the washing bays are also available. But I think as we have stayed for a whole year, it is more detrimental when our students continue staying at home. I think it is a high time we bring them back to school, then we can learn how to live with COVID.
In calling for Parliament's intervention, the leaders urged the government to consider allocating more funds to schools to enable them meet the cost of the COVID-19 containment measures.
We are still expecting the funds from the government. We are expecting them to come to schools so that they can supplement what we have already done.
I'm requesting the executive to ensure that we get serious with this COVID issue because the money that has come down, it is not felt. Even the issue of desks, nothing has been received in the schools.
The Ministry of Education had directed all schools to ensure adherence to social distancing, wearing of face masks, and ensure adequate supply of clean running water, liquid soap, and hand sanitizers. Now, let me take you to the coastal region, where hundreds of spectators thronged the Mkupe Creek in Jomvu, Mombasa County, to witness the annual Jomvu boat racing. The competition, which brought together 6 beach management units, was also used to showcase different forms of talent in the region. Emile K. Bade tells us more.
The year reaches its turning point. A cultural extravaganza has brought some much-needed comfort to residents of Jomvu in Mombasa County. The annual event was used to bid goodbye to a difficult year, one that has been plagued by numerous struggles such as COVID-19 pandemic. This year's boat racing event brought together 6 teams drawn from various beach managements in the area, as well as the Kenya Navy.
Tumefurahia kwa hayo mashindano yetu. Leo tumefight, tumekuwa kwanza, Mwenyezi Mungu ametujalia, na hata naomba Mheshimiwa Badi Twalib azidi kupata umri mrefu ili mashindano yaendelee, yazidi kuwa mazuri zaidi.
Lakini mwaka huu imeungwa mkono sana. Hata mnaona wananchi vile ambavyo wamejaa hapa, wamejaa kwa wingi, na vile vile tunaona kuwa participation ya Kenya Navy katika competition hii imetupa nguvu kuwa ni jambo ambalo ni la kuendelea mbele.
Tunashukuru sana, kwani kila kipindi cha mwaka kifika wakati kama huu, wakati wa masiku kama haya, watu wameboeka, yeye huleta rapsha kama hizi. Wasanii mbalimbali kutoka Tanzania, kutoka Uganda wako hapa. Kulikuwa na race boating hapa ya maana sana, ili kwamba vijana wanajumuika, talenti zinaangaliwa, waimbaji wako hapa. Ama kwa kweli ni shukurani sana kwa Mwenyezi Mungu.
Jomvu Member of Parliament Badi Twalib said the annual extravaganza provides the perfect opportunity for locals to preserve and celebrate their rich culture.
Na nia na madhumuni hapa Mkupe ni kutekeleza ama kudumisha utamaduni wetu kwa kufanya competition ya boat racing, lakini tunatumia local canoes ambao ni madau ya kawaida.
The event, which attracts hundreds of both locals and visitors, is also used to showcase a casserole of talent and art.
imenipa furaha kuona nimekusanyisha wananchi wangu wakati huu wa festive season kuja na family hapa. Tumewekea bouncing castles, tumewekea mambo ya face painting, tumewekea wasanii. Competition yenyewe inaendelea, na vile vile tunaona kuwa tumewapa mawaidha moja mbili.
For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade. Now, away from that, over 500 health workers within Samburu County have completed a mentorship training program on family planning and maternal health. The Afya Timiza program aims at improving maternal health and reducing mortality rates.
Samburu County government has invested in improving the maternal and child health following the training of 500 health workers on family planning and maternal health. The Afya Timiza program, sponsored by USAID and the county government of Samburu, started in 2008.
And now the program has reached its maturity, with over 500 healthcare workers graduating through the program, with the county taking over and owning up the program, the county appointing a county mentorship coordinator to lead the process, the county committing resources to run the process in the future.
Afya Timiza Deputy CEO Isaac Ndwiga says the county government will continue with other health workers in a bid to ensure continuity of the program. Samburu County Chief Officer of Health Sam Nakope acknowledged maternal deaths occur because of poor decision making by health volunteers, hence the need to keep on building capacity.
A number of maternal deaths occur because one, poor decision making by the community health volunteers, two, lack of proper monitoring, three, and delay in starting treatment, and therefore, so these are the critical gaps that we wanted to cover up.
Kevin Washira, Lunchtime News.
All right, it's now time for us to take a very short break right here on KBC Lunchtime News. We really appreciate you staying with us. Continue interacting with us on social media. I will be sampling some of your views as we continue with this particular broadcast. But for now, allow us to take that much-needed break.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Enjoy the magic of Christmas with Coca-Cola.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, Christmas imekuja mapema na quick bid. Lucky bidda ako hapa, tumpe ndugu yake.
Ndio huyu anaitwa Penua. Heshimiwa na tumemheshimu.
Karibu.
Nduti ndio hii kifungu. Shika kifungu yako boss. Ulibidaje?
Niliingia kwa site ya quickbid.co.ke. Alafu nikafuata the process.
Oh yes.
Nikabid 158 na ndio nikaweza kubai nayo hii pikipiki.
Christmas hii hakuna kutembea. Ndio huyu mheshimiwa Kate, tufanye aje? Kalia nduti, ndio hii ni ya customer, hiyo ni yako. Sawa? Kalia nduti, chukua helmet nini yako? Valia, leta nikushikie hii. Valia. Bas, quick bit wanahakikisha pia safety. Iko on point. Haya, kalia nduti. Kate, si twende tushughulikie wengine. Si ndio? Twende tushughulikie wengine. Asanteni sana.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Welcome back, and we really appreciate you creating time for us, and for those of you who are taking time to interact with us on social media at KBC Channel 1. Remember, we are streaming this live for you on Facebook and on YouTube. Job Omino Tevex, you say you're watching. Thank you so much. Sandy Olise watching from Gishegeri, Embu County. Joseph Nyakundi Matingai, you're watching us from Masimba in Kisii County. And Jane Mwigai, you reacting to one of the stories we ran about school reopening. You say either with safety or not, wacheni watoto warudi shule. Thank you so much for your comment, and continue interacting with us online. Now, moving on to other matters, some sad news the country has received this morning. President Uhuru Kenyatta has sent a message of condolence to the Mudavadi family following the death of Hannah Atsianzale Mudavadi. Hannah was the widow of the late cabinet minister Moses Mudamba Mudavadi and the mother of former vice president and Amani National Congress party leader Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi.
Hannah Mudavadi died on Monday morning while receiving treatment at a Nairobi hospital. In his message of condolence, President Uhuru Kenyatta described the late as devoted, generous and humble matriarch who raised a close-knit family and contributed immensely to the progress of her community. Meanwhile, a section of leaders drawn from Kisii County have called for the establishment of more constituencies in the region. The leaders also faulted the ongoing clamor for constitutional reforms, arguing that it's not guided by the law.
What is before us, what you will be being asked to vote on the referendum is not the BBI report. You will be being asked to vote on the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill. Yeah? And that bill has not been subjected to public participation. How can it have been subjected to public participation if the bill which was unveiled in Kisii was one version, the one Obama's was a different version, and the latest one that we saw at the time of signatures is a different one.
In Bobasi constituency, the Bobasi constituency has 8 wards. You understand? And the Bomachoge Church has got 3 wards. We all receive the same amount of money in terms of NGCDF. Bobasi has got over 200 schools. I have 150 schools. And my colleague Alpha has got about 50 schools. How practical is that? And then we are saying, ati tuende BBI. We are telling wale watu ambao wanaongoza BBI hapa Kisii, ya kwamba Kisii, kama hakuna hizo vitu, kaeni na hiyo BBI yenu kweli.
The group spoke even as West Pokot County woman representative Lillian Tomtom called for unity among area leaders, claiming political divisions are hurting development efforts in the region.
Hakuna jambo muhimu kama viongozi kufanya kazi kwa pamoja. Na nataka niwapongeze wenzangu ambao wamekubali kufanya kazi pamoja, ya kwamba tushikane mikono, na mimi kama mama wa kaunti ninafurahia sana. Kwa sababu hii mambo ya kufanya kazi pamoja ama umoja ya viongozi inaleta nguvu, inaleta maendeleo, inaleta umoja, inaleta upendo na inasukuma kaunti mbele.
The legislator also urged residents to shun retrogressive practices such as female genital mutilation. Elsewhere, a section of Isiolo leaders have accused Area Governor Mohamed Koti of doing little to spur development in the county. The group vowed to rally area residents behind progressive agendas in the county, even as they called on locals to demand better services from all elected leaders.
Tunataka kutangaza utapeli ya Kuti inaisha siku ya leo. Sio kesho. Siku ya leo utapeli ya Kuti tunaitangaza na tunaweka kwa kaburi la sahau. Huyu ni kwa mjamaa kwa miaka 20, hana agenda ingine. Agenda yake ni kupiga propaganda. Nafikiri kwa kitendo kama ni kufanya sahihi to sign agreement, kwa sababu kila wakati tunavunja ahadi.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
And our condolences to the Mudavadi family. Away from that cocktail of political events as filed by Gladys Mungai, we now want to take you to matters COVID-19. Authorities in the coastal region are reporting a drop in patients seeking treatment for tuberculosis during the COVID-19 pandemic. The decline is being attributed to the partial lockdown as well as fear of stigmatization among those seeking treatment and medication.
Since the onset of the coronavirus pandemic in Kenya, the health sector has recorded a drop in persons seeking treatment, while others grapple with the problem of access to essential services. Measures taken by the government, such as cessation of movement in and out of some counties, proving to be a stumbling block for some tuberculosis patients. Ronald Peter Munyoki, a fruit vendor at Kongowea Market, is one such patient. He says accessing treatment amid the pandemic was an uphill task.
Jumapili tukamgia tena. Wakanipima hii hapa na hii hapa. Akaja akaniambia kupata kitu. Nikambaki Monday. Ndio alipima ile HIV. Wakapima kukuta hakuna. Hadi nikakaa pale wakaniambia ningojee. Kila aliambia kama nitaweza kutoka Tuesday, niliambiwa nijijadili kama nitatoka Wednesday. Lakini pale walikuwa wanataka pesa niwalipe. Nikamwambia sina pesa. Sababu huo ugonjwa umeniingia, nilikuwa tayari. Tukaendelea hivi tukakaa hiyo siku Tuesday. Ndio Wednesday, siku ya 6 wakaniondoa. Nilikuwa tarehe kama saa 10 hivi ndio niondoka. Kutoka hapo nikachukua hatua nikaja pale hiyo hospitali ya Kongowea. Kuja pale ndio nikapimwa. Kuja majibu nikaambiwa ni TB na pneumonia.
Millicent Ourumaweni is also a TB patient, and she says after losing her job due to the pandemic, she was unable to cater for her medication and food and depended on well-wishers.
Ikafika mahali sasa, mimi mwenyewe ni mgonjwa, mwenye nyumba pia anataka pesa, mwenye pikipiki anataka pesa, wewe mwenyewe una pesa hata za kwenda matibabu. Nikasema Mungu nisaidie, usiniache. Hiyo siku nilijikaza, nikajikaza, nikasonga. Hiyo siku nikatoka na pesa kidogo, nikasema hizi pesa kidogo kesho pia nitajitahidi nije, hata kama nitakuwa nikikaa chini nikiamka mpaka nipate hiyo pesa ya matibabu.
Norman Otieno, the Mombasa County TB Management Advocacy Champion, says they have been missing out on their targets since the outbreak of COVID-19 because many patients have been shying away from accessing health facilities.
Huu mwezi tuko na wagonjwa 29 katika register yetu ambao sio kawaida. Kawaida huwa tunawapata kama wagonjwa 50 na kuendelea mbele.
Tusiwatenge hao, usiwapatie unyanyapaa. Mtu akipatikana na dalili yoyote huwa tunawa screen for TB. Hata wale wa COVID lazima wa screen wa TB. Kama ni kupiga picha, kama hazitoa makozi lazima tupige picha tuone kama ni TB ama ni COVID.
Even the healthcare workers were relocated to the COVID-19 isolation centers, which meant then that TB centers were not well supported. leaving very few skeleton staff. Anybody going for TB was not attended to well.
They are now calling on TB patients to ensure they complete their dosage to avoid developing drug resistance. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
And now, crossing the borders, U.S. President Donald Trump has signed into law a coronavirus relief and spending package bill. The move is aimed at averting a partial government shutdown. The relief package was approved by Congress after months of negotiations.
President Donald Trump had initially refused to sign the bill, saying he wanted to give people bigger one-off payments. The delay meant that millions of Americans temporarily lost unemployment benefits. The relief package, worth $900 billion, was approved by Congress after months of negotiation. It is part of $2.3 trillion spending package that includes $1.4 trillion for normal federal government spending. Had Trump not signed the bill into law by midnight on Monday, a partial government shutdown would have begun unless legislators passed a stopgap bill. Elsewhere in Central African Republic, citizens have voted in an election overshadowed by violence between government and rebel forces. President Faustin Achieng Touadera is seeking a second term and has accused his predecessor, Francois Bozize, of fomenting a coup with rebel groups. The government rejected calls for opposition to postpone the vote because of insecurity. Initial results are expected on 4th January 2021. 16 candidates are running for president, including 3 women. If no candidates get more than 50% of the vote, a second round will take place on 14th February.
Now, the COVID-19 pandemic caused an unprecedented disruption to the public transport sector. The curfew, inter-county movement restrictions, sanitizing, social distancing and wearing of face masks were measures aimed at curbing the spread of coronavirus, but their implementation dealt the public transport sector a heavy blow. This afternoon, on the 2020 Year in Review, we focus on the new norm in the public transport sector. Irene Chuma-Odim gives us more details.
2020 kicked off positively for the public transport operators, having cashed in on the back-to-school rush and the regular committees. This, however, did not last, as 2 weeks after Kenya reported its first COVID-19 case, President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered a countrywide curfew between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. to tame the spread of coronavirus, with only essential service providers exempted from the curfew. Public transport sector was badly hit.
Gari ndio hakuna, halafu zenye ziko chache nauli iko juu sana. Kutoka Nairobi kwenda mahali ingine kama Nakuru ama Eldoret ama Kitale, sasa sio kama miaka ingine juu ya hii ugonjwa. Juu sasa gari ikibeba ile pesa imebeba, haina pesa ya kuwekwa mafuta iende irudi. Juu gari saa ingine Disemba wakati kama huu gari huwa inaenda inarudi bila watu, dereva anakuja mwenyewe. Siku hizi imebadilika. Kwa hivyo gari ikibeba mara moja inaenda inakaa station ile ingine.
Si nzuri kwa sababu abiria wanasema kwamba labda ni gari, lakini kwa sisi pia hatupati sana kwa ajili kulingana na vile kila kitu tunapoteza 1,000.
Things worsened for the sector when on April 6th, 2020, the government imposed a 3-week ban on movement in and out of Nairobi, Kilifi, Kwale and Mombasa counties. Mandera followed suit soon after announcing a 30-day lockdown to prevent the spread of the coronavirus following confirmation of 2 cases in the region.
So far, the county has 8 cases, the latest being 2 cases of urban refugees. Now, this is a dangerous situation.
There are people on the road right now who this order is likely to catch them unaware, and as such we want to urge humane processing of the same as we firm up the lockdown process.
The national government further directed all public service vehicle operators to wear masks and block any passenger not wearing one from boarding. The operators were, among others, also required to observe social distance between passengers by carrying only 60% of their vehicle's capacity. 14-seater vehicles were only allowed to carry 8 passengers per trip. Strict hand washing by commuters while maintaining personal hygiene was also made a requirement for matatu users. Passengers were also advised to wear clothes which covered arms and legs to avoid skin contact while on transit. However, both commuters and PSV operators to some extent compromised some of these measures, such as social distancing, especially in the crowded Nairobi city, where 48% of the city's 4.7 million residents use matatus daily.
Juu hata sikibeba ile fare hawatateremsha. Na bado juu kuna shida ya corona, naona maoni yangu ni tuendelee na keep distance.
Hawakutravel, watu walisha travel kwa hii mwaka yote wakitravel, wanafunzi na watu kwa to respect wanafunzi vile wanafunzi. Maybe wanafunzi wakifungua ndio maybe inaweza juu watu gani na watu 30, watu 38. Watu 26.
The rising number of infections resulted in subsequent extensions of the cessation of movement in and out of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi and Kwale counties for a total of 3 months, which lapsed on July 7th.
The spike we are witnessing has not just erupted out of nowhere. It has in part been triggered by wanton violations of containment protocols and advice from our experts. I am told that bars are neither requiring their patrons to observe social distancing nor asking them to wear masks, and they seem to be under the impression that sanitization at the door is a sufficient requirement for service. That once Jerusalem gets in, all measures go out.
Enforcement of these measures also weighed heavily on long-distance truckers as neighboring countries also closed their borders. Truck drivers were initially subjected to mandatory COVID-19 tests at the border points before this changed to presentation of clearance certificates from the country of origin.
Na polisi wanasema hawaruhusu gari za Kitanzania kuingia nchini Kenya.
Hata tulipotoka boda hatujapewa taarifa yoyote ya kuidhinisha kwamba haturuhusiwi kuingia Nairobi. Tumeruhusiwa, tumepewa dokumenti zote.
However, the delay in clearance at the one-stop border posts of Malaba on the Ugandan side and Namanga on the Tanzanian side, as well as the uneven application of the measures across borders, degenerated into a diplomatic row between Kenya and her neighbors.
Hapa ni kuumia, tunaumia, sio tini la tuko naye hapa. Na tungependa hii safari yetu iendelee.
Pindi tunapotembea, kila mahali unaposimama unaambiwa dereva wa Kenya yuko na corona. Sasa tunashangaa vipimo hivi tunapimwa ni vya kazi gani?
Kwa sasa hivi tumefungiwa mahoteli huku. Ukivuka hapa kama uko na gasi yako umejipanga, ukifika pale Bustema wanakunyang'anya gasi. Wanakuambia unakuja kulipua nchi yetu. Chakula ile umebeba wanakuibia. Unaambiwa utembee hivyo hivyo mpaka urudi kwenye.
Hata mahali ya kulala uruhusi kulala. Unaambiwa ni ukitoka boda ni uende.
This then we are working with the county commissioners to have them held in a certain area away from the border point where they are not allowed to mingle with the community. So we are working closely with the county commissioners to make sure that these holding areas are well manned.
Enoxikolia, Citizen TV.
The row resulted in traffic snarl-ups which stretched tens of kilometers from the border points where truck drivers spent several days to be cleared. Truck drivers from Kenya were also not at ease with the directive that they hand over their trucks to their counterparts across the border for fear of damage, pilferage or loss of their cargo. Even a cessation of movement in 4 counties was lifted and the curfew period shortened. Compliance with these measures had a cost effect on business overheads, which some operators passed on to passengers by hiking the fares. For Year in Review, my name is Irene Mchuma Udim.
Now, it is a festive season and you could be set for nyama choma here or a goat eating party there, but this is why you need to be careful. Increased demand for meat during this festive season has led to the mass slaughter of livestock outside the approved channels. Africa veterinary technicians are now warning that contaminated meat is finding its way into the distribution channels and posing a health risk to unsuspecting consumers.
Food safety experts estimate that Kenya loses over 100 billion shillings annually to consumption of unsafe foods. This is further compounded by lack of quality assurance and awareness among consumers who bear the brunt from losses in the value chain. According to experts, distribution of unsafe meat has shot up owing to increased demand over the festivities. As such, reports indicate that unscrupulous traders are now slaughtering livestock at night and supplying butcheries and eateries without inspection.
And chances are that some of the meat will not be inspected simply because we don't have enough staff to do that role. And that will give other people an opportunity just to slaughter animals wherever they'll be, or in their homes, or in the bushes, and then they transport the meat to the butcheries.
Africa veterinary technicians say poor meat management structures in the country poses a challenge in ensuring meat safety. The association says there is need to have a centralized livestock permit system to make detection of fake permits easier. Currently, devolved units have different permit systems, which make it difficult for security officers to determine authenticity.
In Kenya, meat inspection has been devolved, ownership of slaughterhouses is privatized, and at the same time, we do not have a very comprehensive compensation strategy to ensure that if animals are condemned, then the owner of the animals will actually be compensated. So in such a situation, I think the best alternative is just to transfer some of these facilities to the defense forces.
Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
All right, now moving on, global shares climbed on Monday after U.S. President Donald Trump signed into law a $2.3 trillion pandemic aid and spending package, backing down from his earlier threat to block the bipartisan bill. Details of this and other stories from across the globe in the Business News Roundup.
US and SP futures rose 0.60% in the first trade after Christmas holidays, edging closer to a record touch last week. The futures had earlier reversed losses after a cryptic tweet by Trump. Good news on COVID relief bill, information to follow, helped offset worries about further delay in stimulus spendings. European shares are expected to follow suit, with Euro stocks of 50 futures rising 0.42%, though many markets, including London, will be closed on Monday. On the other hand, Japan's Nikkei inched up 0.74%. MSCI's broadcast index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan rose by 0.20%, but trade is slow with many markets still closed. The dollar is widely expected to stay under pressure against other riskier currencies as investors bet on continued recovery in the global economy and a prolonged period of loose U.S. monetary policy. Elsewhere, China is projected to overtake the U.S. to become the world's largest economy by 2028, 5 years earlier than previously forecast by UK-based Centre for Economics and Business Research. The report says that after a strong pandemic rebound in 2021, the U.S. economy will grow by about 1.9% annually from 2022 to 2024, then slow to 1.6% in the years after that. By contrast, the Chinese economy is tipped to grow by 5.7% annually until 2025 and 5.4% annually from 2026 to 2030. China's share of the world economy has risen from just 3.6% in 2000 to 17.8%, and now the country will become a high-income economy by 2023. This is according to the report. Meanwhile, India is also tipped to become the largest economy by 2030. And finally, Britain has urged businesses to make preparations for the end of the transition period prior to the end of trade negotiations, saying many of the changes they needed to make would apply regardless of the outcome of the talks. The government said that businesses needed to understand the new rules on importing and exporting of goods between the EU and Great Britain and the different rules that apply to trade with Northern Ireland. Businesses will also need to make custom declarations on EU trade, while hauliers need a permit to go to ports in the country of Kent or risk a fine. The transition period under which Britain stayed aligned to the EU's trading and regulatory rules ends at 2300 GMT on December 31st. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now it's time for us to focus on some sports news. Morocco defender Roma Saiz produced a header that watching Wolves' teammate Raul Jimenez would have been proud of to deny Tottenham victory at Malino and a place in the top four. Tottenham, who would have gone third with a win, moved to fifth, splitting the two Manchester clubs who both have a match in hand. Wolves are in the 11th position.
Semir J scored a dramatic late equalizer against Liverpool to earn struggling West. Crystal Palace host Leicester City at Selhurst Park in the early kickoff. Aston Villa travel to Stamford Bridge to face Chelsea, while Manchester City meet Everton at Goodison Park.
And that is how we wrap it up here, but not before I appreciate a few of you who have tuned in. Brenda Keegan tuned from Litein. You say rest in peace, Hannah, referring to the mother of ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi, who died today. And of course, Jane Muigai, you're watching from Doha, Qatar. Peter Ashuman, watching from borderline of Kenya, Ethiopia and Somalia. Boni Wazee, you're watching from Ekware in Kisii County. Evans Komen, you've been watching us from Athi River. Zazi Izobi, you're watching from Kisii. And Timothy Muyeko, tuned from Kakamega. And many of you, I cannot sample all the views right now, but we appreciate you. Keep interacting with us. Our social media pages are open. We are going to be posting regular updates on what is happening in the country and beyond on that particular platform. My name is Serfine Achieng Ouma. Our sign language interpreter has been Simon Karotha. We now leave you with the rest of the programming that we have lined up for you to entertain you in this festive season.